Landon, how's it?
It's raining. Fortunately, it's not that bad, but we've had that pretty heavy rain band come over central northern Guam for the last hour or so as I was driving in earlier this morning. It was coming down in sheets. The rain was not vertical, it was all diagonal with a strong gusty wind. So I hope you can hear me okay. But I'm just outside our portico here at the office. So it's starting to let up just a little bit. The airport is behind me. And so we have very limited visibility with this rain band coming across, and that's going to be sweeping across the island for the next at least for the next hour. But there is more showers and thunderstorms upstream of us as this thing sweeps by. So let me turn my camera around as we go into my office, where it's a little bit drier, so things are starting to improve. So things tight. Here we go. I had to get a charge on my battery. I've had to charge my phone almost nonstop since yesterday, but here we are with the latest. We have a beautiful view of the center of this tropical disturbance as it passes southwest of Guam this morning. And that's it right there in all its glory. That's Tropical Depression 6W. Its development has been mitigated, so that was the good news for us overnight, that it did not intensify into a tropical storm. And it will be well outside of our area by the time it does become a tropical storm. Our latest advisory that was issued at 5 o'clock this morning still is a tropical depression. That's going to be updated at 8 o'clock in our next public advisory, no later than 8 o'clock this morning, as it continues southwest of Guam, moving away. Now, we did reach closest point of approach. That was in the last several hours, as it passed just about probably 35, 40 miles southwest of Maritza, or about 55 miles southwest of the Guam radar. That does not mean things will quickly improve, because we have all this weather on the eastern side of that tropical depression, and that's what we have to watch out for. So this is intense rainfall down there to our southeast that could, if it holds together, sweep over our area. This is the radar velocity, so we're looking at winds just above the surface, upwards of 35, 36 knots, about 1,000 feet. So every time we have these heavier showers, that brings those gusty, stronger winds down to the surface. And this plot here, this is just showing several different views of our radar data. This one down here, this is our 1 hour rainfall rates, showing those swaths of rain bands coming over the island. So you see those sheets of blue and green. That's the heavier core of showers as they move in over the island. So we're going to be seeing this trend continue for the next several hours as these rain bands persist across Guam, as this depression moves on out of the area. So we do have tropical storm warning remains in effect for Guam and the coastal waters around Guam until we are fairly confident that these conditions are not going to exist any longer and that things start to subside later this morning. So wind gusts here at the airport, we've been sustained around 20 to 25 miles per hour with gusts upwards of 30 to 35 miles per hour. And that's going to continue at least for the next several hours with these rain bands. And then things will start to subside this afternoon as TD06W eventually makes its departure from our region. The satellite picture doesn't show much of anything impressive. And as I mentioned, that low level circulation is right here. So it's kind of sheared off by the upper level winds, which means we have an exposed low level circulation. And that's not good for a storm if it wants to develop into something more formidable. That's good for us, because as long as it stays mitigated in its development, that means the impacts will be less severe as far as wind intensities and other problems. But all that plume of convection, the showers and thunderstorms, have been prominent on the east side, the northeast side, and north of that circulation. So that's where we're focusing on now, is the weather that's east of that low level circulation. So even though the low level is moving away, all this weather, we still have to deal with that over the next several hours into the afternoon hours. So that's where we are with this tropical depression.
Oh. Hey, Landon, real quick. I know yesterday Chris was smart enough to notice that the next storm, I guess, in sequence is supposed to be named after an H. And then you were telling us yesterday that Sinahania Mayor Robert Hoffman was kind of saying he was, humbly requesting that maybe you guys consider naming the storm after his family. But I'm looking on your site right now. So weather.gov/GUM, everybody. And I'm looking at your visible loop. It's already got it listed as Himawari 8.
That's our satellite.
Oh, that's a satellite. Okay. So just coincidentally, it's also with an H, right?
Yeah. So the West Pacific tropical cyclones, they're not in alphabetical order like they are in the Atlantic and named by the National Hurricane Center. This is from a 14 country member typhoon committee, inclusive of the United States and other countries around the region. And so we all have the naming rights for these storms. And so each country submits a list of 5 names, and then it gets discussed within the typhoon committee to make sure it doesn't translate to something derogatory in another language.
Yeah.
And so each name comes from a different country. And I think the next name up for bid would be Champy. And we've had that before. I think the next one after Surigay was actually, we had Surigay in April and then Choiwan in May. And then there was Koguma. And I think that comes from Japan. That was a weak system that just made intensity enough to get a name by the the Japan Meteorological Agency. That was over near Vietnam and the South China Sea and in that region. But I think this next one would be Champy, and that would get its name once the JMA designates this as tropical storm force intensity.
Oh,
so,
okay. So at least for the moment, we're still referring to it as Tropical Storm 06W.
That's correct.
Gotcha. I know a couple Champies, actually.
Okay, good. Landon, I had a question, and I'm not sure if you went over it already, but if you haven't, if you could, there's a couple of advisories that are still in effect for Guam with regards to flash flooding. And can you kind of go through that so our listeners and viewers know what to watch out for?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, because we do want to focus on the impacts with the system. And a lot of times these intensities, these storm intensities and categories, they're based on wind intensities, but that's not the only threat. And the biggest loss of life from tropical cyclones, especially in the States, come from the water aspect of hurricanes. That's storm surge, flash flooding, and significant rainfalls. So for this system, even though the wind is not so much a threat, we do have a high surf advisory in effect until 10 o'clock Wednesday morning along east and south facing reefs. That's in response to the larger seas and surf associated with this tropical depression. And a flash flood watch remains in effect through this evening. And so as long as these rain bands continue across the region, we will see that potential for locally heavy rainfall. Not everybody will see it, but folks within that rain band, they will be seeing quick rainfall accumulations, heavy to briefly torrential rainfalls in a short period of time, and then it will pass by. So that's the concern there. And the tropical storm warning remains in effect for this morning. We'll be assessing the possibility of dropping that at some point later this morning. So stay tuned to our webpage, and for any further updates, we'll be putting a lot of information out. Our next public advisory detailing the current depression and its location will be coming out no later than 8 o'clock this morning. And we are issuing hourly radar updates. As long as this depression remains within our radar range, we'll be putting out radar fixes with our tropical cyclone update every hour.
Mm-hmm. You know, we do have a lot of viewers in the CNMI, and there were some advisories for Rhoda. If you could just provide the latest with the tropical storm watch that's in effect for Rhoda.
Yeah, that's correct. And the tropical storm watch is inclusive of Rhoda only. Tinian and Saipan are well outside of the realm of any influence as far as the tropical storm force wind threat with this depression. And so the watch remains in effect. That may be dropped very shortly for Rhoda. And the impacts from that do include the showers and thunderstorms. So there is a high surf advisory in effect for south and east facing reefs of both Rhoda, Tinian, and Saipan, and a flash flood watch. They've been seeing a lot of rainfall up there as well. So even though this low level circulation was just south of Guam, those effects as far as the showers and thunderstorms are felt across all of the Mariana Islands.
Mm-hmm. So just if you could, at what point will things start to kind of clear up? Are you able to kind of give us an idea?
Yeah, things will gradually clear up. I'm going to turn you back to my computer screen. This is going to continue like this through much of the morning with the showers and thunderstorms. But all this weather east of it, that's going to linger around through the morning, at least through midday. And then we could probably see some improvement as we go through the afternoon and evening hours. And then it's going to be much better on Wednesday across the region. But it's this belt of showers and thunderstorms that's east of that low-level circulation that we're going to be watching in the next 8 to 12 hours as it passes through. The wind threat will gradually subside through the morning, but the showers and thunderstorms will linger and pass over from time to time throughout this afternoon and evening.
Right. And that's where, the flash flood watch people in southern Guam should just kind of be aware. And I know, Chris, did you talk to the Maritzo mayor?
I haven't talked to the mayor, Bree, but I
Oh,
did
I
talk
thought
to
you
a
did.
listener down in Molesso, and she said it's definitely starting to
Uh-huh.
pick up.
Yeah, that's true. And right now, Maritzo's in a little bit of a lull right now, but we're going to see some more showers push in over Maritzo and southern Guam very shortly within this area. I don't think this will be potential for flash flooding with this one. It's moving on through and it's not that large in nature. But if this area does hold together, this could cause some significant rainfalls in a short period of time. So we'll be watching this area closely to see if it kind of ebbs and flows, that it makes its approach to the island. So we're not out of the woods yet. We've made close to point of approach, but the conditions will continue, the showers and the gusty winds and the possible threat of flash floods.
Right. And so basically, stay out of the water and don't, I feel stupid saying this, but don't go hiking. But you just don't know.
And
It's
that's
summertime and people,
Yeah, that's a good point. That was something we were discussing yesterday is what about people that are hiking? And I think it's a good practice not to be out in these conditions. It's beautiful weather. It's nice and cool and you're not going to get sunburnt, but there is that threat of flash flooding and the trails anywhere along creeks and river valleys that can be particularly dangerous in these situations where the soils have been wet and somewhat saturated over the last 12 hours. Any additional heavy rainfall in a short period of time will cause that quick flash flooding along creeks and river valleys. So you do not want to be out there. Just stay inside. This is a go out and shop, dine out, stay home, take care of chores type of day.
Landon, we've been seeing
except
this.
if you work for GovGuam, right?
Yeah, we've been seeing this rain, in the I guess last more of it anyway in the last few weeks. Is this kind of the beginning of the season for you guys, and are you anticipating anything after this current situation that we're monitoring?
Yeah, we are watching an area of showers and thunderstorms in eastern Micronesia, but right now we don't expect any development with that area. I'm going to flip back to my satellite here. So we zoom way out. We were watching some heavy convection across this region. This is Majuro right there in Kosrae. Has since pulsed downward with the diurnal cycle, and diurnal is like a 12-hour phase. We see showers and thunderstorms pulse up and then pulse back down. That's kind of a silence this morning, but we are watching a troughing feature that comes across from near Kosrae, across the southern Marshall Islands near Majuro, and then beyond the dateline. There could be a couple weak eddies or circulations within that trough, but we don't see anything that poses any threats, at least in the near term, as far as any concern with development. But as long as that troughing feature is there, as long as that surface feature is there, generating showers and thunderstorms, it's something that we'll be watching closely because tis the season. We're coming up into July very soon, and then our peak period for tropical cyclones in the region is ramps up in August and then peaks in September, October, and then starts to quiet down in November. So June is climatologically our quietest month as far as tropical cyclone activity. And then we start our climb into the peak time of the year. So yeah, this is considered a practice round. We exercise our communications, our strategies, our preparedness actions. And I think we as an island, we were very fortunate with this one because as quick as this one was generally a non-event, it could have flipped quickly the other way. And so this is something that we always have to keep in mind. You can't compare one storm to another storm because the local effects can vary significantly.
Landon, you talked about this being kind of a practice run, a dry run. That being said, are you satisfied with the way everything came together from, I guess, a forecast standpoint? Because it kind of seemed like we heard a little bit over the weekend, and then things just really ramped up yesterday. Right?
Yeah, and that's typical with these situations. Sometimes they can pulse quickly upwards. That's where we were looking Friday night and Saturday morning when it was upgraded to medium. Things were looking pretty good and favorable for development, but then things change or shift, and then the development doesn't quite happen. But then when that development does occur, that's when we have to be ready to act, ready to communicate and spin things up, so to speak. And so the trickiest part for us and the situations I like the least are when these things are developing near a populated area, a landmass, Guam, for example. If they're out to sea, out in the open waters, nobody pays attention because all this stuff happens internally within the weather agency, which I Joint Typhoon Warning Center. And so we can make these decision points, whether to upgrade or not, and it's not affecting anybody. But when it's sitting 100, 200 miles offshore, and you may go into a shower and thunderstorm event with no watches or warnings, or you have to spin up quickly into a tropical storm scenario, that's when it gets tricky. And that's where communications are absolutely critical to get things communicated properly, accurately, and with clarity so that people know exactly what's going on and why these decisions are being made.
All right. Well, thank you, Landon, for the update. I'm sure somebody from the news team will be contacting you a little later today to get even more information and the latest.
We'll be here all day.
Thank you, Landon.
All right.
Right on.
Thanks, Landon.
See you, my
See
friend.
you later.
Right on. We had some comments in here. Shauna Flores, I'm in Santa Rita. The power is out. Any chance you know how long it will be out? Well,
Harry S. Truman has been, they've called school off, right, Bree? For Harry S. Truman has been out because
Harry
of
S.
power outage.
Truman and Southern High School.
Yeah.
Because of the power. I'm checking right now to see if I got anything from GPA, but
okay. Well, maybe I'll shoot Art. Art's still the guy over there, right?
I think it's I can't remember her name.
Yeah, did he retire?
It's been somebody else that's been sending out the press releases from GPA.
Okay, well while you guys do that, right? Joser and I like on a hunch, right? We were just we're taking a look right now. We're showing you guys what the traffic looks like. So we're showing you the Google Maps overlay of like the real-time traffic. Nothing really outside of what would be normal for this time of morning. Looks like some of the major choke points as everybody heads off to work or possibly summer school again. What we know at this point.
You got school.
Harry S. Truman and Southern High, as Bree just said, have been canceled classes down there today because of power outage. But everywhere else, you got to go to class. And we're taking you on the map right now, basically through Barragata, and you can see on the top of your screen that's what Airport Road looks like, and over in Tumon. Typically, places where you would have the traffic buildup, nothing outside the norm, as we were saying. Over in Back Road seems to be a little bit more congested than it normally is. But seems like things are flowing pretty smoothly as far as the traffic goes, guys.
All right. We're getting Patty Long Diego from Guam Power in just a moment. I think she's going to call in, Bree. So we'll take a quick break at 7:26. We're back with more of the link next. Good morning.
Help us celebrate the class of 2021. Talking Shop Tuesday.